The woman asked softly, "Are you talking about my Huang?" She immediately smiled with bittersweet relief. "He's okay. They told me the operation was a success. Now it's just a matter of monitoring his condition." She looked at Cheyenne and asked, "Is it true my Huang was really brave?" Her voice trembled as she added, "That's why, even though it's hard right now, we'll get through this." But suddenly her hand began to shake. "I'm not like this. I swear I'm not like this," she murmured, squeezing her eyes shut as tears spilled down her cheeks. Then, overwhelmed, she burst into sobs. "This horror, it happened to my son, and I couldn't do anything to stop it." Her voice grew more bitter. "I wanted to destroy them all, tear apart that man and everything he loves, make him suffer, make him eat himself from the inside, just like I am, crying and helpless." She slammed her fists onto the cutting board, and the carefully rolled sushi scattered apart. Cheyenne sat quietly, listening, watching her. A few moments passed before she managed to calm herself. "I'm sorry," she said finally, wiping her tears. "I shouldn't have unloaded all of that on you." She turned to face him but froze. The table was empty. "Cheyenne?" she called out. No response. Elsewhere, high above the city, a formal voice announced, "This concludes Bayanwood Construction's third quarter performance report." Bayanwood stood and raised a glass of liquor. "Well done, everyone. Thanks to your hard work, we've made it through another quarter." He paused dramatically. "Even after the bankruptcy of our parent company, Zhuyang Construction, we stood firm. That's our strength, our determination." As scattered applause followed, a waiter approached one of the seated executives. "Would you like more wine, sir?" The man nodded distractedly, until the waiter suddenly smashed the bottle across his face. The room erupted in shock as the man fell sideways. It was Cheyenne disguised as the waiter. "Go on," Cheyenne said, voice cold. "Don't hold back on my account." The executive tried to retaliate, but Cheyenne grabbed 2 mugs off the tray and hurled them at him. The man flinched, expecting impact, but instead found the mugs suddenly placed in his hands. He froze, bewildered. "How?" Before he could finish the thought, Cheyenne swung a powerful kick, shattering the mugs and sending the man flying. Without missing a beat, Cheyenne grabbed a fork and a small knife from a nearby table and hurled them at a group of men moving in. One of them, recognizing him, shouted, "It's that blonde bastard!" He lunged, but before he could reach Cheyenne, the cutlery struck him and the men behind him, embedding cleanly into their foreheads. Screams followed. "What's going on?" one employee shouted in panic. Another barked, "Grab him! Don't just stand there. Shoot him." They looked around in a frenzy. "Where the hell is he? He couldn't have gone far. Search everywhere. He's still here." From above, Bayanwu calmly observed the chaos below. His eyes narrowed. Cheyenne, now hidden under one of the tables, crawled out silently, gripping a table knife. In his mind, a voice echoed, "The first principle. A parent's order is absolute. The guiding rule of the Good Child Project from the Mansion of the Dead." Cheyenne dashed between 2 guards, slashing their legs with precise, calculated strikes. They collapsed, howling. He remembered the mother's rage, her desperate wish to make the man suffer as she did. Those words echoed in his mind. Tear him apart, make him cry, make him rot from the inside. More men spotted him. They shouted and charged. Cheyenne yanked the tablecloth off a nearby table, sending plates and glassware flying at his attackers. While they shielded themselves, he lifted the table and launched himself forward, using it as a battering ram. One man cursed, but was immediately crushed beneath the force of the table, along with several others. Screams rang out. Then, whistling through the air, a knife was thrown at him. Cheyenne twisted his body mid-movement, narrowly dodging it. The blade instead buried itself in the skull of another man who had been running toward him. Pulling on a glove, the man admitted with a smirk, "That was a good hit, but I know I broke your hand last time." He stepped forward, ready to try something new, but before he could finish, Cheyenne closed the gap between them. In a blink, Cheyenne intercepted the man's arm mid-swing and struck hard. Then, gripping the arm again, he growled, "Watch closely. This is how you break it." With a sharp twist, he yanked the arm downward. The man screamed, dropping to his knees. Cheyenne let him fall and turned, just as a bullet whizzed past his cheek, grazing the skin. He looked up sharply. Byangwoo was standing on a nearby balcony, gun outstretched. Byangwoo clicked his tongue in mild disappointment. "Thought I was a better shot." Cheyenne replied, calm and cold, "Unless you're a pro, it's hard to hit from that far." Byangwoo raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" He descended the stairs slowly. "You speak like someone well-trained. So what are you, a street kid or a professional?" He paused, watching Cheyenne closely. "I've heard of a group in Korea, the Crew. You one of them?" Cheyenne answered flatly, "I've never heard of them." "Really?" Byangwoo stepped closer. "Then who do you belong to?" Cheyenne's eyes narrowed. "If I belong to anyone, it's only to the Hien Ho snack bar." Byangwoo tilted his head, puzzled, then chuckled. "That dump? The little stall in the alley with the stink of old oil." Suddenly, his eyes hardened. He raised the gun, pressed it to Cheyenne's forehead. "So what did she tell you to do? Kill me?" Cheyenne stared back, unblinking. "No. She said to tear you, and everything you care about, apart." Byangwoo blinked in confusion. "What?" Before he could process it, Cheyenne swung his arms sharply, knocking the gun aside, and drove his fist into Byangwoo's face. Byangwoo stumbled, barely catching himself by grabbing Cheyenne's collar. He spat blood and cursed, snarling, "All this for some snack shop hag's revenge?" Cheyenne stepped forward and hit him again. Hard. "This isn't about revenge," he said coldly. "And it's not retribution." Blood streamed from Byangwoo's nose and mouth. A tooth clattered to the floor. Cheyenne looked him in the eye. "It's the first principle," he said. "A parent's order is absolute." He turned and walked away. Byangwoo, still standing despite the damage, sneered. "Efficiency is key. That's why you finished the job the first time." Smiling through broken teeth, he continued, "I should have taken out you and that woman from the start." He picked up his gun from the ground. "I'll do it right next time. I'll kill everyone." Cheyenne didn't even turn around. He raised the gun in his own hand and muttered, "You're talking nonsense." Then he fired without looking. The bullet struck the base of the grand chandelier hanging above Byangwoo. It groaned, then fell, crashing down on top of him. As the dust settled, Cheyenne walked away. "Like father, like son," he said. "Trash runs in the family." Later, at the hospital, a nurse stood at the foot of a patient's bed. "Are you feeling any discomfort?" Joseph, lying with his face partially covered, growled, "Can't you see it?" He cursed under his breath. The nurse sighed. "School violence is out of control these days." Joseph turned to look at her. She seemed troubled. "I've never seen injuries this bad," she admitted. "The kid who did this must have been really good at fighting." She paused. "But that doesn't make it right." Joseph didn't respond right away. Then, "I don't know, but it hurts like hell." The nurse began preparing a syringe. "Back when you were with Byangwoo, what did you two talk about?" She looked at him curiously. "Was it true what the kid said? About the 3 absolute principles?" As she injected the medicine into the foreline, Joseph noticed something strange. "What did you just give me?" he asked. "That color doesn't look right." The nurse gave him a serene smile, eyes closing slightly. "Don't worry. In small doses, it's not lethal." She gently sat down beside him on the bed, still smiling. Joseph stared at her, then asked again, his voice suddenly unsure. The nurse leaned in and asked again, "Will you answer my question now?" She repeated the phrase slowly, "The 3 absolute principles." Then, with calculated pressure, she rested her elbows against Joseph's torso. Joseph winced in pain, his jaw tightening as he covered one eye with his hand. Leaning closer, the nurse whispered, Do you even know what that means? Joseph stared at her in horror. I don't know. What are you talking about? The nurse smiled faintly. Let me remind you, the words you said to Byangwoo that very first day. With a sudden, fluid motion, she pulled off her wig, revealing her true identity. I think I'll ask differently, she said, voice now cold. The name Cheyenne, does that mean anything to you? Her expression sharpened. I am the disciplinary officer of the Mansion of the Dead, she said. My specialties: disguise, infiltration, interrogation, and torture. Sometime later, Rachel, now out of disguise, stood on the phone with the director, her expression dark. We have a situation, she said calmly. She looked over the ruined hall, men groaning, broken and bloodied on the floor. A child with the codename Cheyenne used force. The director rose sharply from his chair. What are you saying? That can't be. We tracked Cheyenne and arrived at the correct location, Rachel explained, stepping over an unconscious body without a glance. But he was already gone. Kneeling beside a man with broken limbs, she added, and the number of injuries. It's extensive. This was no accident. She stood again. If this was Cheyenne, it directly violates the 3 absolute principles. The director bit his finger, troubled. This has never happened before, he muttered. Those principles are absolute, we called them that for a reason. He walked over to the large bookcase, opened it, and began pulling down several heavy volumes. One book tumbled open, revealing a photo of children, sealed beneath a protective cover. If Cheyenne disobeyed, the director said slowly, then something fundamental has gone wrong. He flipped through the pages and pointed to a photo of young Cheyenne. The weapons we've distributed through the Mansion of the Dead, perhaps they're evolving, ignoring commands, turning on us. He handed the open book to Rachel. He's your new target. Observe him. Find out if he really used force without orders. Rachel nodded. As she stood, she stepped on a wounded man who groaned and grabbed at her leg. Without emotion, she said, Understood. The director added, If you need assistance in Korea, contact the White Tiger staff. Just then, 2 men walked into the room. One looked around in disbelief. What the hell happened here? He asked. A middle schooler did this? His partner, running a comb through his hair, muttered, At this rate, I'm going to lose every strand before we figure this out. Still on the call, Rachel turned toward them. I see we've got a smoker and a bald man, she said coldly. I'll begin surveillance on Cheyenne as soon as I leave the scene. One of the men blinked, then turned to his friend. Did she just call me bald? The friend shrugged. Can't tell if she meant you or me. Rachel walked past them without another word. The men stared after her. Do girls really dress like that nowadays? One of them asked. His friend chuckled. They say she's Russian. We're staying open-minded. I mean, my wife's pretty open-minded too, he said, then paused, glancing around. Wait, where's the manager? He got assigned another job, the other replied. Don't worry. Later, at a local high school, Rachel, now disguised again as someone else, walked the halls with a calculating gaze. Her preliminary investigation was complete. Cheyenne was enrolled here. According to school records, his parents were overseas, but in truth, they didn't exist. Their identities were fabricated, fictitious placeholders in an official system that never questioned the lie. Rachel narrowed her eyes. The hunt had officially begun. Now walking the school corridors, Rachel moved with ease among the students. A smile played on her lips as she mentally addressed him. What are you doing here, Cheyenne? She promised herself she'd find out soon enough. Resting a hand against her cheek, she admitted inwardly that she was excited to see how much her Cheyenne had grown. Among all the children she had trained, he was the most gifted, flawless in every weapon she placed in his hands. Memories came rushing back. Days spent teaching the young boy. She still couldn't believe he had grown up without a mission. Passing a window, Rachel glanced into one of the classrooms and immediately recognized him. There he was, Cheyenne, seated at a desk, laughing and talking with classmates. She watched as he clapped his hands together in mock desperation and spoke in a dramatic voice, mimicking Joseph. "I'm sorry. It was all my fault. Please forgive me," he cried, feigning tears. Rachel froze. That's Cheyenne?" Her eyes widened. Shock crept across her face. The class clown? The bully? Inside the room, Cheyenne kept joking, now mock-scolding Joseph. "I told him to stop acting like a baby. I asked if he really wanted to die." From behind, a tired boy grumbled. "Ugh, you're too loud." He rubbed his forehead and stood up, glaring at Cheyenne. "Let me sleep, will you?" Cheyenne turned toward him with mild annoyance. "What did you just say?" He stood up too, and tension rose instantly. Rachel's eyes narrowed. A dominance fight? A power struggle? She remembered such scenes from the Mansion of the Dead, where children battled to establish hierarchy. Sometimes they even dared challenge her. She found those memories oddly endearing. She had always defeated them effortlessly. And Cheyenne? He always won. Every single time. But now, Rachel's breath caught. Cheyenne was on the floor. "What? He's down?" she whispered to herself, stunned. Her golden child, once the strongest of them all, was apologizing, shielding himself with his hands. "I'm sorry. Please, stop," Cheyenne cried, wincing in pain. "That hit the bone. Ouch." Rachel couldn't move, couldn't process it. Her mind reeled. Later, after class had started, she stood at the front, trying to refocus. "Let's continue with the next chapter," she suggested, her tone mechanical. After all, she reminded herself this was still a school. As she lectured, her thoughts drifted. He's hiding his strength. Why? It made sense, she decided. If he was trying to blend in, he couldn't afford to stand out. The three absolute principles, they must still apply. She glanced again at Cheyenne. He was hunched over his notebook, eyes narrowed in deep concentration. Rachel watched in silence. That look, those eyes. It's him. Cheyenne was always exceptional. Not just strong, but brilliant. In the Mansion of the Dead, strength had never been enough. The elite were also intelligent, and Cheyenne had outshone them all. No matter how much he hid, he couldn't mask that spark. Rachel quietly approached his desk, intending to guide him, to remind him of what was at stake. Poor thing, she thought with an inward smile. It must be exhausting trying to fit into this world. I'll have to train him again soon. Remind him who he is. But then she froze. Peeking over his shoulder, she realized Cheyenne wasn't taking notes. He had drawn a comic strip in his notebook. A ridiculous, expressive little doodle with exaggerated facial expressions. He studied it proudly, even admiring his own artistic detail. Rachel's eye twitched. She raised her hand and brought it down sharply on his head. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped. "You're in class, not an art studio." Sometime later, in the staff restroom, Rachel sat on the toilet seat, face buried in her hands. She whispered in disbelief, "This can't be happening." And that's where our video ends. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and leave a comment down below. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you're updated on our next content. Until the next video, take care always.